All right, here we go. It is Friday. All right. Well, the sky's not falling. I promise. Everything's good. I'm not gonna hit the panic button. I'm annoyed, frustrated. A lot of different things on my brain here is what happened the past 3 days. But I guess my overall take is big picture. Not worried at all. Really not worried at all. What are we up? Two games, three in the loss column. Yankees have played two more games than us. Feel like I'm running a presidential campaign here by wanting to focus on the other team instead of myself. Um, but frankly, it's that's the way sports are, right? You're not just competing with yourself; we're competing against other teams. So when you take a step back and you look at the past 3 days and the overall season, I think we're in a great spot. I just do. I think we're a much better team than the Yankees. I think it was a bad couple of days and the schedule didn't help. You're coming back from the West Coast. You're amped up for this weekend to play the Yankees. You got the All Star stuff. And I don't know. It's just Cubs guys are trying to get traded. They want to be on better teams. They don't know if they're tanking or not. And they just beat us. So it happens. I just don't think there's anything that I would hit the panic button on, or this proves this, or this proves that. This weekend, we'll learn a lot, assuming the rain holds off today and tomorrow. We'll get these games in. But this will feel like the playoffs. This will be the first time, I guess, since really the whole season where it'll be managed like a playoff game. You'll see whether it's the pinch hitters, the lineups, what we think is the absolute best chance to win the game. That's what you're going to see for these three games. It'll be exciting to see where the heads are at for the managers and, Yankees and the Orioles. The Yankees change their lineup all the time. They're 7-18 in the past 25 games. Feels like they have a different lineup almost every night. They're trying to figure out what to do. And obviously, the Orioles got a lot of roster decisions. So we'll see what happens this weekend. But my big picture is, yeah, I'm not worried at all. It just sucks. Gambling, it sucks. It just whatever. It's hard to get away from these past 3 days. It just is what it is. Let's see. Where do I want to go for today? I guess I came to the conclusion on two things. So I'm going to start with the first one, and that's the pitching and what we actually need to do here at the deadline. And, it's less about the names and more about what we need from the position. It really is going to require a couple bullpen guys. That just has to be the focus. I don't know what the price tag is going to be. I don't know exactly who the bullpen guys are. I'm not willing to go into that for another 2 weeks as we get like really close to it so I can see exactly who's available, read the stories, and then make my judgments from there. But we need a couple bullpen guys. We just do. It's apparent that we are going to get a little bit tired here. We're going to play a lot of close games. So we just need a couple bullpen guys. They just traded for a guy yesterday who will be in AAA, but he's able to come up. I don't think he's pitched in the majors, or he's only pitched like 27 innings or something like that. So he's available. They're going to need some arms. So they definitely need a couple bullpen guys. Like that's for sure. But, based on what they did with Jacob Webb and Coulomb, I don't care where they come from. I have great faith in the organization to develop the arms and fix whatever ailments that the pitchers might have, but they need a couple guys. We just do. There might be another injury or two. Don't know if Coulomb's coming back. Definitely need a couple bullpen guys. And then as far as starters are concerned, like you just got to go around the league. Like you just do. You have to go around the league and see who's available. There's not that many guys available that have pitched in the postseason, and unless the Rangers are going to trade a couple of their guys. It's just not that many people to choose from. And I think we need to not overreact to when Kramer has a bad start or Suarez has a bad start and say, oh, that's just proof. Even Povich. I'm so curious to see what happens with Povich tonight. Cost me, God, he's so bad in Oakland. I know he was bad. I'm going to bet him tonight. I have a good feeling he's going to pitch well tonight against the Yankees. We'll see. He's facing Cole. But when Povich has a bad start, or Kramer or Suarez, they're going to each have bad starts here for the rest of the season. That's not a sign that we have to make a trade. I'm confident enough that if we upgrade the bullpen, we don't necessarily need to trade for a starter. So that's where I'm at. I understand when people get upset and see that Suarez or Kramer gets rocked and Povich, he's too young. But when you go to saying we need to trade for a starter, then telling me who the starter is are two different things. There's just not that many guys available. So, all right, that's that. But the major point I want to get to is the lineup and chemistry, motivation, and what frankly, I think needs to happen after the All Star break because nothing's going to happen this weekend. No trades are going to be made. But when we take a step back here and look at the team, look at the contracts, I think it's when we're in a rut like this, part of it is a lack of direction here, not just in left field, but also at second base, third base. Those three positions have to be solidified. We have to have going into the stretch run roles defined. It just does, whether you're coaching high school basketball, elementary school basketball, NFL football, Major League Baseball, it doesn't matter. You're coaching any team, business, roles have to be defined. No matter what, if everybody's not on board with what the roles are, you're going to have bad chemistry. Things aren't going to work out. So, excuse me. So I looked at the contracts this morning, make sure I got this 100% right, and wanted to come up with a solution, not just identify the problem. So here's my solution. But first, before I do the solution, just to recap exactly what the contracts are so we're crystal clear. Um, Santander is a complete free agent at the end of the year, no arbitration, none whatsoever. Orioles have no rights to him. End of story. He is completely free to get paid. It's going to most likely be his one and only big contract. Whether or not he signs with the Orioles, I'm not sure. In the old regime, he would be traded maybe with the big pockets. He's a fan favorite. Not sure. That's an offseason decision, probably the biggest one. You can make arguments either way. He's not going to be traded at the deadline. I would say 90% sure of that, going closer to 95 than I would 85. Like I feel really comfortable Santander's finishing the season with the Orioles. Be absolutely shocked. So he's going to be a free agent. Let's kind of put him to the side. Mullins and Hayes are in the same boat contract wise, meaning they have one more year for arbitration. So when I keep saying they want to get paid, they want to get paid, they want to get paid, going into the final year of arbitration, which each of them are eligible for, means essentially the Orioles and their agent negotiate at the end of the season on what their value is. It's kind of baked in. Last year, Hayes got 6.3 million. It was more than what the Orioles had thought he was worth, and then MLB gets involved and say this is what he's awarded. So the Orioles still have, excuse me, control over the rights to Hayes and Mullins, but they both want to get paid, and there's something about doing, like I said, the old regime, their old way of doing things. They didn't want to pay anybody, and now Santander is going to be a complete free agent. I'm not sure exactly what the organization's feeling is on Mullins. They do have a crowded center field. I could see them being ready to move on with him at the end of the year and not offer him arbitration or a contract and let him go get paid somewhere else. But as I've said, even when he was struggling, he's going to be the defensive center field in the playoffs. So he's on the team for this year. Let's kind of leave that alone. And when I go over Hayes' contract and I think about how the Orioles still have control over him for one more year, this is the part where I feel like he has to be traded, has to be moved no matter what, because they're not giving him, they're on a different page as far as what the Orioles think his value is to the Orioles and what Hayes's value is to other teams, right? And that has to be reconciled because he wants to get paid. So if you keep him on the team and you just let him continue playing the role that he's playing, you you're either not bringing him back next year or you're basically hurting his market and free agency for next year. So it's not a pleasant situation. It's not a happy situation. The goal for him was to solidify a spot. Maybe the Orioles would just pay him 4 years, 50, $60 million. He'd be the left fielder and kind of just put a block on Kalzer and Kerstead. It just didn't happen that way. And it's over with because we can't keep trying to help him out at the expense of other guys not getting rhythm or because the righty lefty splits. We just can't do it. Period. It has to stop. He has to get moved out of the lineup, off the team. It's just how I feel about it. It's different than the Kalzer situation where he's young and my thoughts were we send him down to AAA, let Stowers and Kersa have a longer leash the way Kalzer did. But with Hayes, no, there's just no point anymore because I don't think he's better against lefties than Kerstead. Kerstead is just not getting the opportunities. So I think it has to change. He's got to get moved. Plus, when you factor in the contract, I think he would want to get moved somewhere where he can start every day for the next 3 months and get paid. So first thing is that I don't think I'm going to change my mind whether or not he's amazing for the next week or two or not, or if it just doesn't matter. He just doesn't fit in, and I think it's starting to hurt the chemistry. Not because he's a bad guy, just because there's too much uncertainty of who should play, and I just don't like it. Got to move on from that. Second thing is, all right, the Mateo situation and the Westberg situation. So you can move on from Hayes without needing an upgrade, right? You just let Cowser and Kerstad get more at bats. So problem solved there. Um, the Mateo situation and the Arias situation is what needs to be addressed because Jackson's not coming up until September. I'm like, I would say 90, 95% chance of that. He would be the last guy added if they even let him come back up in September. That's just I think all the writing's on the wall. Anybody you listen to, he's still working through things, trying to get his confidence up. So they're certainly not rushing him up. The guy that needs, or the two guys that need to come up, that need to hit every day outside of Stowers, which that's the separate story. We're not doing Stowers today because I'm beating that to a dead horse. He's the number one trade chip, right? He's getting blocked. Orioles want to move him. But the other two guys are Norby and Mayo. So Norby got I think it was 14 at bats total, 3 for 14, hit a home run. Mayo hasn't been up here. They're way better than Arias and Mateo at hitting the ball right now. I just had that feeling like the evidence isn't quite there because they haven't done it. But I think the evidence, unfortunately, with Arias and Mateo's starting to have a similar campaign than last year, where he started off really hot, and then pitchers are kind of figuring him out. And, he's just a below average hitter for a championship team that we're trying to be. But he needs to be on the roster. He is fantastic at stealing bases. He's fantastic defensively. Great clubhouse guy. We have him under control. We want Mateo there. And I think it's time as the All-Star break gets here, not this weekend, but in the next couple of weeks for Arias to be moved out. We have him under contract. I think he's valuable to certain teams as part of a package deal. Hopefully, him and Hayes kind of fit that same, I guess, depending on the team, depending on their situation, they could use big league players like Hayes and Arias. They're not quite big trade chips. Hopefully, they have enough value because at this point, I think Mateo needs to play, twice a week and be a defensive and pinch runner, defensive, replacement and a pinch runner. I think Westberg needs to be moved to second base or third base if you want to bring Norby up. But my gut tells me that the team and it's time, frankly, for Mayo to be inserted here. I just don't know how they feel about him at third base. That's the big thing with him. And the injury kind of set things back a little bit when he fractured his rib. I don't know how long ago that was, but it was a little bit of a setback, but he is just raking. And that's what we're missing, that big right-handed bat to complement Mountcastle in the middle of the lineup, maybe protect Mountcastle a little bit as he's been struggling. And if not Mayo, Norby, but either one of them, I think pushes Arias out and pushes Mateo back to the utility role. And if it's Norby, I think Norby's more comfortable at second base, and Westbrook can be third. But I think what makes the most sense if I'm constructing the roster is if I can move Hayes and Arias out of here, then I bring up Norby and Mayo, and I plug Mayo into the third base spot and pray that that defense is ready to go. He can be third base / DH, but he's got to play almost every day. And then Westberg gets moved to second. And then when Mateo's ready, when you're substituting out Mayo or you're moving him to DH, then Mateo can play second, Westberg can play third. So that's seamless. And then Norby can, well, I know he can play left field a little bit. I'm sure it's not at the level of Hayes. But again, we have defensive replacements in Cowser and Kerstad. I mean, Kerstad's shown to be really solid out there in left field. I think Norby would benefit from being up here, and he can have basically Hayes's role, where he's getting at bats against lefties, maybe not as many as Hayes was. So Kerstad and Cowser are getting as many at bats as possible. If you're not quite ready to bring Norby up for that, then you don't have to. You can certainly keep Arias there and maybe transition him more to left field if he can play that. But yeah, I think my overall point is it's time for Mayo to have that opportunity to give a jolt to the lineup. It's the one thing that we're missing, the big power right-handed hitter to complement Mountcastle. I think he's ready. I think it would be a nice addition, whether it's the first series going into Texas after the All-Star break, or at least in that couple of weeks following, as we make some moves here at the deadline. So I'll recap that as we get closer. But yeah, after it's not a reaction to the Cubs, it's a reaction to the Cubs series. It's a reaction to, all right, basically these tryouts are over with. We've done the rotation, but we don't really have a direction here on what the lineup should be, who should be playing, and that's got to change. We got to start rewarding the guys that are ready to roll, and time to move on. And yeah, I think Mayo's ready to roll. Let's see if that gives us the jolt. And yeah, Kerstad needs more time. If you're going to keep Cowser up there, they need more at bats. And Hayes, I love Hayes. I really do. He was one of my favorite players a few years ago. He just hits the ball so hard, no complaints, does everything the right way. But I think guys have passed them. So, all right, that's that. Sorry if that was a long ramble, but wanted to get all that off my chest. So now we can just focus on this weekend, because just have to find a way, especially to win the night. You win the night, you set the tone, assuming we get to play. Weather looks crazy, but it's Povich versus Cole. We're up 2 games. See if we can find a way to win. I think the main thing to look for tonight is to see exactly what we have the lineup as, right? Like, what's the strategy? How do we attack Cole? It's going to feel like a playoff game. We're 5-2 against the Yankees for the series. And then, so we got 3 games here, and then the last 3 are all the way at the end of September. So win 2 out of 3, we automatically get the tie break. Hell, win 2 out of 3, you're up 3 games going into the break. So nothing really matters what happened before the season, what's happened for the first 3-4 months. It's kind of all set up for, all right, big series. See if we can hit the reset button and roll tonight. All right, I'm gonna stop rambling here. But yeah, I think that's about it as far as gambling's concerned, because obviously that's the main focus of what I'm doing here. Yeah, it just is what it is. When you're betting on the Orioles, and they lose 3 straight games, my record's going to reflect that. And hasn't really mattered what the bets are. Pitching, hitting, it was just really bad. So I'll look at everything. Looking forward to bouncing back this weekend. But yeah, I haven't lost faith in Povich. Just unfortunately was horrible against Oakland. We'll see exactly what the props look like, and I'll have my bets out accordingly. So everybody have a great day. Be safe if you're driving. Hopefully we get the game in. So see you guys. Have a good one.